I opened my door expecting a delivery drone, not a purple goddess asking me to father her children. Danny Foster rubbed his eyes, convinced he was still dreaming. The digital clock on his kitchen wall blinked 11:47 p.m., and someone was hammering on his apartment door like the building was on fire. All right, I'm coming. He stumbled across his small living space, still wearing his worn t-shirt and pajama pants. When he yanked the door open, prepared to yell at whoever thought midnight deliveries were acceptable, every word died in his throat. She stood there under the corridor's soft blue lighting, and Danny's brain completely short-circuited. The alien woman before him had smooth purple skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Long, silky black hair cascaded past her shoulders, framing a face with features that were almost human but somehow more elegant. Her eyes were the color of amethysts with flecks of silver that literally sparkled when she blinked. She wore a simple white dress that reached her knees, and she was clutching an empty glass container against her chest. I apologize for the late hour, she said softly, her voice carrying a melodic accent Danny had never heard before. I am Vela. I moved into Unit 7B 3 days ago. I've run out of milk for my evening tea, and your dwelling was the closest with lights still on. Danny's mouth opened and closed like a fish. He'd seen Velrin people in the colony markets before. Elindra 9 was one of the new mixed-species settlements, but never up close. And definitely never one this beautiful standing at his doorstep at midnight asking for dairy products. Yeah, sure, milk, I have milk. He mentally kicked himself for sounding like a complete idiot. Come in, wait here? Actually, you can come in if you want. It's cold in the hallway. Vela stepped inside gracefully, her bare feet making no sound on his floor. Danny tried very hard not to stare as he rushed to his small kitchen unit and grabbed the carton from his cooling unit. Here you go, he said, handing it to her with what he hoped was a friendly smile. Keep the whole thing. I can grab more tomorrow. Consider it a welcome to the building gift. The moment the carton touched Vela's hands, something strange happened. Her eyes widened, those silver flecks suddenly glowing brighter. A soft purple light began emanating from intricate patterns on her arms and neck, marks Danny hadn't even noticed before. You're giving me your milk? She whispered, her voice trembling. Freely, without asking for trade? Well, yeah. Danny scratched his head, confused by her intense reaction. We're neighbors now, right? That's what neighbors do. Help each other out. Makes us good neighbors. Vela's container slipped slightly in her hands. She caught it, but her breathing had quickened. Good mates? She repeated, those glowing marks on her skin pulsing brighter. You accept? Accept? Sure, I accept being good neighbors. Before Danny could finish his sentence, Vela pressed her hand to her chest, over her heart. The glowing marks spread across her skin like beautiful lightning, and her eyes filled with tears that sparkled like diamonds. Thank you, she breathed. Thank you for choosing me, Danny Foster. I will honor this bond with my entire soul. Then she was gone, practically floating down the hallway to her apartment, leaving Danny standing in his doorway holding absolutely nothing and understanding even less. What? What just happened? He muttered to the empty corridor. His doorcom beeped. A message flashed. Congratulations on your bonding. The Velrin community welcomes the union. Danny's legs went weak. Oh no, what did I just do? I woke up to find 300 wedding gifts outside my door and absolutely no idea I'd gotten married. Danny's alarm blared at 6 a.m., dragging him from dreams filled with purple skin and glowing patterns. He groaned, slapping the device silent, and stumbled toward his bathroom. Last night felt like a fever dream. Maybe it was. Maybe he'd imagined the whole thing. Then he opened his front door to grab his morning newspaper. Holy. The hallway was packed. Stacked from floor to ceiling were boxes, baskets, and containers of every size and color. Ribbons and flowers decorated each one, and small holographic cards floated above them displaying messages in both English and Velrin script. What in the actual... Danny started, but movement caught his eye. His neighbor from across the hall, Tom, was peeking out from behind his door with wide eyes. Dude, Tom whispered urgently. What did you do last night? I gave someone milk. Just milk. You gave a Velrin female milk. Tom looked like he might faint. Do you have any idea what that means? Before Danny could respond, the elevator doors opened with a cheerful ding. Out stepped 3 Velrin people, 2 with deep purple skin and 1 with a lighter lavender tone. The older male, wearing elegant robes that shimmered with embedded crystals, Locked eyes with Danny immediately. Son chosen. The man boomed, his voice warm but powerful. We came as soon as we received Vela's bonding notification. Danny's brain was still trying to process son chosen when the older Velrin woman rushed forward and grabbed both his hands. Her touch was warm, almost hot, and her eyes, the same amethyst color as Vela's, were wet with happy tears. Oh, look at him, Corvin. So handsome. So generous. Our daughter chose wisely. We didn't. Danny stammered, but the woman was already pulling him into a hug that smelled like cinnamon and starlight. The younger Velrin, a male who looked about Danny's age with a mischievous grin, clapped him on the shoulder. Welcome to the family, Bond brother. I'm Theron, Vela's actual brother. Fair warning, Mom's going to redecorate your entire apartment. Redecorate. Listen, there's been a huge misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, Corvin declared, producing a glowing data pad. The ritual was clear. You provided sustenance when asked. You offered your resources freely. You accepted the bond verbally. The ceremonial marks activated on our daughter's skin. It's all very official. Danny felt the hallway spinning. But I didn't know. I'm human. I don't know Velrin customs. The mother, who introduced herself as Lisa, patted his cheek gently. Ignorance of tradition doesn't invalidate genuine intention, dear. You acted from kindness. That's what matters in a mate. A mate? Danny's voice cracked. I thought we were just being neighborly. Oh, how sweet. Lisa clasped her hands together. He thinks providing for her needs and promising to be good mates was just friendship. Corvin, isn't he adorable? Theron was grinning like he'd won the lottery. Dude, you basically proposed with dairy products. That's either the smoothest move ever or the dumbest luck in the galaxy. I vote dumb luck, Danny muttered, running his hands through his hair. Look, Mr. and Mrs. Call us Mom and Dad. Lisa insisted. I can't just be married to someone I met for 5 minutes. Corvin's expression grew serious but kind. The ceremony hasn't happened yet. You have 3 days to prepare your heart and your dwelling. If you truly wish to refuse, you must tell Vela directly before the third sunset. But know this, Danny Foster. His eyes glowed slightly. My daughter doesn't ask for help easily. That she came to your door of all the humans in this colony means something. Something like what? Danny asked weakly. Theron leaned in, dropping his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. Like maybe she's been watching you for 3 days, learning your routines, hoping you'd notice her. Like maybe she knocked on your door specifically because she wanted it to be you. Danny's heart did a weird flip in his chest. That's manipulative. That's romantic, Lisa corrected.
She chose you, Danny. In Velrin culture,
the female always chooses. Always. And our Vela has very high standards. The elevator dinged again, and Danny's boss stepped out, stopping short at the scene. Foster, are those bonding gifts? Did you bond with the new Velrin tenant? Apparently I proposed with milk, Danny said flatly. His boss broke into a huge grin. Well, this is excellent for colony relations. Take the week off for ceremony preparations. Paid, of course. We can't have our newest interspecies couple stressed. Danny wanted to scream. Instead, he heard himself ask the one question that actually mattered. Where's Vela? Lisa's smile turned knowing. In her apartment. Preparing herself. Probably terrified you'll reject her. She thinks I'd... Danny stopped. Those tears in her eyes last night. That trembling voice. She'd been vulnerable, hopeful, scared. And he'd said yes without knowing what he was saying yes to. I need to talk to her, Danny decided. Not before tonight, Corvin said firmly. Tradition demands separation until the bonding discussion dinner. We'll return at sunset. Wear something nice. And Danny? The older man's expression softened. Give her a chance. Give yourself a chance. Love has started from stranger places than a carton of milk. As Vela's family swept back into the elevator, chattering excitedly about ceremony plans, Danny stood in his hallway surrounded by 300 gifts and one massive decision. Tom whistled low from his doorway. So that happened. I need coffee, Danny said. So much coffee. Dude, I think you need something stronger than coffee. Danny looked at the gift pile at his door, at the spot where Vela had stood last night with hope shining in her starlit eyes. Yeah, he agreed quietly. I really do. Our first real conversation involved her explaining their word for milk was slang for marry me. and me needing 5 drinks to process that. Danny spent the entire day researching Velrin culture on his data pad, and with each article his panic grew. Apparently the milk ritual was ancient, a test of character where females would approach potential mates disguised as someone in need. How a man responded revealed his true nature. By sunset, Danny had changed clothes 4 times and was currently wearing his nicest button-down shirt. The blue one, his sister said, made his eyes look good. Not that it mattered. This was just to explain the misunderstanding, clear things up. Let Vela down gently. So why were his hands shaking? The door chime rang exactly at sunset. Danny opened it to find Vela standing there, and his breath caught. She wore a flowing dress in deep violet that complemented her purple skin perfectly. Her long black hair was braided with silver threads that caught the light. But it was her eyes, those beautiful, nervous, hopeful eyes, that made his prepared speech evaporate. "Hi," she said softly. "May I come in?" "Yes." "Yeah. Of course." Danny stepped aside, suddenly very aware of how plain his apartment looked. I cleaned up. A little. Sorry it's not fancy or—" "It's perfect," Vela interrupted, glancing around with a small smile. "It feels like you. Comfortable. Real." They stood in awkward silence until Danny gestured to his small dining table. "I ordered food. Wasn't sure what you'd like, so I got variety. There's earth pasta and some Velrin dishes from the market and—" "Danny." Vela touched his arm gently, sending warmth through his skin. "Breathe, I'm nervous too." He let out a shaky laugh. "Really? You seem so calm." "I'm very good at pretending." She sat down, folding her hands in her lap. "My mother says it's my worst quality. I hide what I feel until it explodes at inconvenient times." Danny sat across from her, studying her face. "Is that what last night was? An explosion?" Vela's cheeks darkened to a deeper purple. A blush, Danny realized. Last night was hope and terror, and 3 days of watching you from my window, wondering if I was brave enough. "Watching me?" "You feed the colony cats every morning," she said quietly. "Even though they're not pets, even though feeding them is technically against regulations, you do it because they're hungry and you have food. That's who you are." Danny's throat felt tight. "Vela, I need to be honest with you. I didn't know what I was agreeing to. I had no idea about the milk ritual or bonding or any of it. I was just being nice, I know." Her voice was barely a whisper. "That's why I chose you." "What?" Vela's glowing marks flickered to life under her skin, betraying her emotions. "Velrin males understand the ritual. They prepare themselves, present their best qualities, compete for selection. But you just gave. Without thought of reward, without knowing what it meant. You saw someone who needed help, and you helped." She met his eyes. "That's rarer than you think, Danny. In any species." They sat in charged silence until Danny finally asked the question burning in his mind. "Why didn't you tell me before I answered?" "Because I'm a coward," Vela admitted, looking away. "I was afraid if you knew you'd say no, or worse, you'd say yes out of politeness and regret it forever." Her voice cracked slightly. "At least, with the misunderstanding, I'd have one night believing someone chose me freely. Hey." Danny reached across the table, hesitating only a moment before taking her hand. Her skin was warm, smooth, and those glowing marks brightened at his touch. "Look at me." She did, tears making her eyes shimmer like liquid starlight. "You're not a coward," Danny said firmly. "You moved to an alien colony alone. You approached a strange human's door at midnight. You risked rejection and humiliation on the chance for connection. That's not cowardice, Vela. That's bravery." A single tear rolled down her purple cheek. "Then why do I feel so scared?" "Because you actually care about the outcome," Danny said softly, surprising himself with the insight. "It's only scary when it matters." Vela laughed, a sound like wind chimes. When did you become wise? About 30 seconds ago. I'm as surprised as you are. Danny squeezed her hand gently. Can I ask you something? Anything. If we start over, no rituals, no bonding marks, no pressure, would you want to have dinner with me? Just dinner. Two neighbors getting to know each other. Vela's expression transformed, hope blooming across her face like sunrise. Just dinner? Well, maybe dinner and a walk under those twin moons you guys love so much. I've heard they're pretty romantic. Danny Foster, Vela said, her marks glowing brighter. Are you asking me on a date? I'm asking if you'd want to see if there's something real here, something that's not just tradition or accident. Danny felt his heart pounding. Because here's the thing. I've been thinking about you all day. Not about the ritual or the misunderstanding, but about you. The way you held that milk carton like it was precious. The way you said thank you like I'd given you the universe. I want to know more. I want to know everything. That's the best marriage proposal I've ever heard, Vela whispered. It's not a proposal. It's a... Wait, you've had other marriage proposals? Vela grinned, the first real smile he'd seen from her, and it was devastating. 17. I turned them all down. They wanted a Velrin wife. You want to know Vela. Is there a difference? The whole universe worth. They ate dinner slowly, trading stories and learning each other. Danny discovered Vela was an engineer who designed water systems, that she'd moved to Elindra 9 for a fresh start after a painful breakup, that she sang in the shower and was terrible at cooking. Vela learned Danny had two sisters back on Earth, that he'd come to the colony after his father died to feel closer to the stars, that he collected old books and made terrible jokes when nervous. How terrible? Vela challenged. Well, Danny said, leaning back with a grin, I'd tell you a joke about milk, but it's too cheesy. Vela groaned, but her marks were glowing steadily, pulsing in rhythm with what Danny was learning meant contentment. That was awful. You smiled, though. I smiled despite the joke, not because of it. Same result. Danny stood, offering his hand. Come on, let's go look at those moons. Unless Velrin culture says that's too scandalous for a first date. Vela took his hand, letting him pull her up. They stood close, the air between them charged with possibility. Actually, she said, her voice dropping lower. In my culture, looking at the moons together means you're considering eternity with someone. Scary word, eternity. Terrifying, Vela agreed. Want to be terrified together? Danny laced their fingers together, feeling the warmth of her skin, the slight pulse of those glowing marks. Yeah, he said. I really do. They walked out into the Elindra 9 night where two moons hung like silver coins in a purple sky, and for the first time since midnight knocked on his door. Danny Foster thought maybe, just maybe, fate knew exactly what it was doing with that carton of milk. She kissed me under the twin moons, and I finally understood why her people believed in destiny. 3 days passed like a dream Danny didn't want to wake from. They spent every evening together, walking through the colony's gardens, sharing meals, talking until the moon set and sunrise painted the sky in shades of amber and rose. Danny learned that Vela's laugh was his new favorite sound, that she unconsciously played with her hair when thinking, that her glowing marks pulsed faster when she was happy. But the bonding ceremony deadline was approaching, and they both felt it looming like a storm on the horizon. On the third evening, Danny prepared dinner in his apartment, actual cooking this time, not ordering out. He'd spent 2 hours watching tutorial videos to make pasta the way his grandmother used to, the one dish he knew he couldn't mess up too badly. When Vela arrived, she stopped in the doorway, inhaling deeply. That smells incredible. Family recipe, Danny said, stirring the sauce nervously. Fair warning, it's either going to be amazing or we're ordering pizza. She moved to his side, peering into the pot. You're cooking for me. Well, yeah, you cooked for me last night. That's what people who like each other do, right? Take turns feeding each other? He paused. That sounded less weird in my head. Vela's hand settled on his lower back, a touch, that felt natural now but still sent electricity through him. In Velrin culture, cooking for someone is deeply intimate. It means you're willing to provide sustenance, to nurture, to care for their most basic needs. So basically, I keep accidentally proposing to you with food. Essentially, yes. Danny turned off the stove and turned to face her. Vela, we need to talk about tomorrow. Her marks dimmed slightly. The ceremony. Your parents have planned this whole thing, the colony's excited, but we've known each other for less than a week. He took her hands. I don't want you to feel pressured. I don't want to rush something that could be really important. Could be? Vela asked softly. Not is? Danny's chest tightened. I'm falling for you. Hard. Fast. Maybe too fast. And it scares me because what if this is just the excitement of something new? What if in 6 months we realize we made a huge mistake based on chemistry and twin moons? What if we don't? Vela countered. What if in 6 months we're even more certain? What if in 6 years we look back at this moment and laugh about how scared we were of the best decision we ever made? You sound pretty confident. I'm not. Vela's voice trembled. I'm terrified, Danny. The last person I loved promised me forever and left after 2 years. Trusting again feels like standing at the edge of a cliff. Her marks pulsed rapidly. But with you, I want to jump. Danny cupped her face gently, his thumbs brushing over her purple cheeks. What if I'm not ready to jump yet? Pain flashed through Vela's eyes, but she nodded. Then we postpone the ceremony. Tell my parents we need more time. The ritual allows for— I didn't say I wanted to postpone, Danny interrupted. I said I'm not ready to jump. But maybe I'm ready to step off the edge and trust you'll catch me. Vela's breath hitched. Danny, let me finish. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it. I've been thinking about what my dad told me before he died. He said, when you find someone who makes you want to be braver than you are, you don't let them go. You don't wait for the perfect moment because perfect moments don't exist. Danny's own eyes were burning now. You make me want to be braver, Vela. You make me want to believe in crazy things like love at first sight and destiny and bonding rituals that start with milk. That's the sweetest thing anyone's ever said to me, Vela whispered. But it's still not a yes. Because I need to know something first. Danny's hands were shaking, but he didn't let go. Why me? Really? You could have knocked on any door, asked any human. Why mine? Vela was quiet for a long moment, those starlit eyes searching his face. Finally, she said, Do you remember 4 weeks ago, the market incident? Danny frowned, thinking back. The kid who knocked over the fruit stand? His name was Pilo. He's Velrin, 7 years old. His family just arrived in the colony. Vela's marks glowed softly. Everyone was yelling at him. The vendor, his embarrassed parents, even other shoppers. But you knelt down in the scattered fruit and helped him pick them up. You told him about the time you knocked over an entire cake at your sister's wedding. Made him laugh instead of cry. I barely remember that. I know. That's why it mattered. Vela's voice was thick with emotion. You didn't help him for recognition or reward. You did it because a child was scared and you knew how to make it better. I watched you turn a humiliating moment into a funny story. I watched you be kind when no one was watching. She pressed her hand over his heart. That's when I decided. If I was going to be brave enough to try again, it would be with the human who made children laugh in fruit markets. Danny's vision blurred. That's really unfair. How am I supposed to be logical about this when you say things like that? You're not. Vela smiled through her own tears. You're supposed to feel it. That's what bonding is, choosing to feel everything together. Even the scary parts? Especially the scary parts. Danny leaned forward, resting his forehead against hers. They breathed together, marks glowing, hearts racing, standing at the edge of forever. Ask me again, Danny whispered. Like you did that first night. Vela pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. Danny Foster, she said clearly, her voice steady despite the tears. Will you be my mate? My partner? My choice? Will you bond? With me under the twin moons and promised to figure out this crazy, scary, beautiful thing together? Danny kissed her. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was 3 days of wanting, of dancing around feelings, of being terrified and brave at the same time. Vela gasped against his mouth, her glowing marks blazing bright enough to cast purple light through the apartment. She tasted like starlight and cinnamon in every good decision he'd ever made. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Danny said, "Yes. Yes to all of it. Yes to the ceremony and the bond and jumping off cliffs together. Yes to you, Vela." She laughed, a sound of pure joy, and kissed him again. "You taste like pasta sauce. Romantic. Very." She grinned against his lips. "We should probably eat dinner before it gets cold." Probably. But Danny didn't move, just held her close, feeling her marks pulse against his chest. "Or we could stand here a little longer. I like that option better." They stood in his tiny kitchen, wrapped in each other, while their dinner cooled and the twin moons rose outside the window. And Danny Foster thought about his father's words, about bravery, about the beautiful purple-skinned woman in his arms who'd asked for milk and offered him the universe. "Hey, Vela. Thank you for knocking on my door." She pulled back to look at him, marks glowing, eyes shining. "Thank you for opening it." Outside, Elindra Nine's twin moons hung perfectly aligned, a rare occurrence that Velrin people believed meant blessings for new bonds. Inside, 2 people from different worlds held each other and chose to be brave together. The pasta was completely cold by the time they remembered to eat it. Neither of them cared. I married my alien neighbor in front of 300 witnesses, and the only thing I was nervous about was whether I'd pronounce my vows correctly in her language. The Elindra 9 community hall had been transformed overnight into something that looked like starlight and dreams had a baby. Vela's family had combined Velrin traditions with human touches, strings of lights mixed with floating luminescent flowers, earth music blending with Velrin harmonic chanting, chairs arranged in circles instead of rows because bonds should have no beginning or end. Danny stood in a side room, adjusting his ceremonial robe for the 15th time. It was traditional Velrin formal wear, deep blue fabric that Lissa insisted matched his eyes, with silver threading that caught the light when he moved. "Stop fidgeting," Theron said, appearing beside him with 2 cups of something that glowed faintly purple. "You look good. Great, even. Vela's going to lose her mind when she sees you." "I'm terrified I'm going to mess up the vows," Danny admitted. "I've been practicing the Velrin pronunciation, but what if—" "Danny, breathe." Theron handed him one of the cups. "Traditional ceremonial drink. It'll calm your nerves. What's in it?" "Better you don't know," Theron grinned. "Trust me, you'll want it. Fun fact, 3 human Velrin bonding ceremonies happened in the last decade. You know how many grooms didn't throw up from nerves? Oh God, that's not helping. 0, the answer is 0. But hey, you'll be in good company." Danny groaned but drank the glowing liquid. It tasted like honey and electricity and something he definitely couldn't pronounce. Warmth spread through his chest and his racing heart actually slowed. "Okay, that's actually helping." "Told you." Theron's expression turned serious. "Real talk though, you sure about this? Once you speak those vows, once those marks transfer, you're Velrin family. Forever. No divorce in our culture, just forever." Danny thought about Vela's laugh. Her tears. The way she held his hand like it was precious. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I'm sure. Terrified, but sure." "Good answer." Theron clapped him on the shoulder. "Because my sister is either going to marry you in 10 minutes or destroy this entire hall in heartbroken rage, and I really like this hall." "Theron." "What? I'm just saying she's passionate." A soft knock interrupted them. Corvin entered, his ceremonial robes making him look even more official. "It's time, son chosen. The moons have aligned. Vela awaits." Danny's stomach flipped. "How is she?" Corvin's stern face softened into a smile. "She's radiant. And crying. And threatening to punch Theron for telling you the throwing up statistic." "I heard that." Theron called as he left the room. "I regret nothing." Corvin approached Danny, placing both hands on his shoulders. "In my culture, fathers speak truth to their daughters, chosen." "So here is my truth, Danny Foster. You are not Velrin. You don't fully understand our ways. You'll make mistakes, cultural errors, probably offend someone's grandmother at a family gathering. This is supposed to be encouraging. I'm not finished. Corvin's eyes glowed slightly. But you'll also bring new perspectives, different strengths, a bridge between our peoples. Most importantly, you make my daughter laugh like I haven't heard since she was a child. For that alone you have my blessing. The rest we'll figure out together. Danny felt his throat tighten. Thank you, that means everything. Come. Your mate is waiting, and Velrin brides are not known for patience. The ceremony space was packed. The human side of the colony had turned out in force. Danny saw his co-workers, his neighbors, even Tom wearing an actual suit. The Velrin community filled the other half, their glowing marks creating a beautiful purple ambiance. But Danny only saw Vela. She stood in the center of the circle, wearing a dress that seemed woven from moonlight itself. Her long black hair was unbound, cascading down her back with small lights threaded through it like captured stars. Her marks were glowing brighter than he'd ever seen, pulsing visibly even from across the room. When their eyes met, she smiled and Danny forgot how to breathe. He walked to her, guided by Corvin, until they stood face to face in the center of the circle. An elder Velrin woman, the colony's spiritual leader, began speaking in their melodic language, but Danny barely heard. He was too busy memorizing every detail of this moment. Hi, Vela whispered, breaking protocol. Hi yourself, Danny whispered back. You're stunning. You're supposed to be listening to the elder. I'm listening to my heart. It's louder. Vela's marks flared brighter, and several Velrin in the audience made sounds of approval. The elder switched to English, smiling knowingly. The bonding ritual requires 3 promises. 3 truths spoken from soul to soul. Danny Foster, speak your first truth. Danny had memorized his vows, practiced them 100 times. But standing here looking at Vela, he threw away the script. I promise to always open the door, he said clearly. No matter what time it is, no matter what you're asking for, no matter how scary or confusing or unexpected. I promise to say yes to the adventure of you. Vela's eyes filled with tears, and the elder nodded approvingly. Vela, your truth. I promise to always knock, Vela said, her voice strong despite the tears. To never assume you know what I need, to always ask, to always communicate even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Danny, your second truth. I promise to learn your language, your culture, your customs, not to replace mine, but to build something new. Something ours. A bridge made of mistakes and laughter and really terrible milk-based puns. The audience laughed, and even the solemn elder's lips twitched. Vela, your second truth. I promise to love your imperfections as much as your strengths, to remember that you're human, that you'll make mistakes, that understanding takes time. I promise patience wrapped in devotion. Final truths, the elder announced. These bind your souls across lifetimes. Danny took both of Vela's hands. I promise to choose you, every single day, in every reality, every possibility, every timeline. I promise that if fate offers me milk or destiny or any excuse to find you again, I'll take it. Every time. Vela was fully crying now, marks blazing so bright they illuminated the entire circle. I promise to be worth finding. To be brave enough to knock on scary doors, to ask for what I need. To believe in crazy things like love at first sight and humans who give milk at midnight. And bonds that start with misunderstandings, but end in forever. The elder raised her hands, and the entire Velrin community began humming, a deep, resonant sound that vibrated through the floor. Place your hand over her heart, Danny Foster. Vela, place yours over his. They did, and Danny felt Vela's heart racing as fast as his own. Speak the words, the elder instructed, in her language first. Danny had practiced this part until his tongue hurt. He spoke the Velrin phrase carefully. Pronunciation definitely not perfect, but full of meaning. Karavil nai, shen ir nai, Velranai. My heart yours, my soul yours, my choice yours. Vela's mark suddenly spread, not just glowing, but physically moving, flowing from her body onto Danny's hands, his arms, his chest. He gasped as warmth spread through him, not painful but intense, like being wrapped in sunlight. The mark settled onto his skin, glowing purple against his human flesh, forming patterns that matched Vela's perfectly. Holy, he breathed, watching the marks pulse in time with both their heartbeats. Now you, the elder said to Vela, in his language. Vela spoke in clear English, her accent making the words sound like poetry. My heart yours, my soul yours, my choice yours. Today, tomorrow, forever. The marks on Danny's skin flared brilliant purple, then settled into a steady, warm glow. The elder smiled broadly. The bond is sealed. The marks have chosen. Before witnesses of two worlds, I declare you mate bonded. You may seal the bond. Danny pulled Vela close and kissed her as the entire hall erupted in cheers. Human applause mixing with Velrin harmonic celebration. The marks on both their bodies blazed like stars, announcing to anyone who could see that they'd chosen each other, bound their lives together, jumped off the cliff and trusted the other to catch them. When they finally broke apart, both grinning and crying, Vela said, "You mispronounced the third word." "What? Really? You said my choice is yours instead of my choice yours. Completely different meaning." Danny's heart stopped. "Oh no, did I mess up the entire... You accidentally told me you're giving me all your future choices. That every decision you make, I'm part of it." Vela was laughing through tears. "It's more binding than the traditional vow. You basically super-married me." "I super-married you? So super-married. Can I super-kiss my super-wife again?" "That was terrible. You're stuck with my terrible jokes now, forever." "I know," Vela said, pulling him close. "I chose them." The celebration lasted until dawn. Humans and Velrin danced together, shared food, told embarrassing stories about both Danny and Vela. Theron gave a speech that was 80% jokes about milk and 20% genuine emotion. Lissa cried through 4 courses of dinner. Corvin shook Danny's hand 17 times. As the twin moons set and the first sun rose, Danny and Vela slipped away to the observation deck. They stood wrapped in each other, watching the colony come to life below them, their marks glowing softly in the dawn light. "So," Vela said quietly, "how does it feel to be bonded?" "Like I've known you forever," Danny admitted. "Like that night you knocked on my door was always meant to happen. Like every choice I ever made led me here." He looked at the marks on his arms, permanent now, beautiful, connecting him to her in ways he was still understanding. "How about you?" "Like I'm home," Vela said simply. "Like I finally knocked on the right door." 6 months later, Danny would come home to find Vela had adopted 3 of the colony cats he'd been feeding. She'd argue they needed him, and he'd pretend to be annoyed while secretly loving it. A year later, they'd host the colony's first interspecies cooking competition, where Danny's pasta would lose spectacularly to Tom's surprise culinary skills. 2 years later, Vela would knock on his workshop door at midnight, holding a positive pregnancy test and crying happy tears as their marks glowed brighter than ever before. But right now, in the dawn light of their bonding day, they just stood together. 2 people from different worlds who'd found each other through the simplest of requests and the bravest of choices. "Hey, Danny?" Vela said sleepily, her head on his shoulder. "Yeah? We're out of milk again." Danny laughed, the sound echoing across the observation deck. "Nice try. You're not bonding with me twice. Worth a shot." "I love you, Vela. I love you too, my mate. My choice. My home." And under the rising sun of Alindra 9, surrounded by the life they'd chosen together, Danny Foster kissed his alien wife and thanked the universe for midnight knocks and empty milk cartons, and the beautiful, terrifying adventure of saying yes.